Namaste and welcome to an episode of A Questioning Mind. I'm your host Sagarika, and today it is my pleasure to be joined by Muneeb. Muneeb has been on the channel a couple of times, and I'm very glad to have him here because it's a topic that is of his interest, and I couldn't really think of somebody better to discuss this very topical, exciting, and interesting subject. Uh, Today actually has been the 13th anniversary of one of the worst terrorist attacks on Indian soil. And on the anniversary of 26/11, we are discussing the hostile neighbor who actually planned these attacks. And one of the architects of following attack, the Pulwama attack, helped is now a major actor on the Pakistan military front. Um, uh, Even more major than he used to be. So today, Muneeb is going to be talking about some of the recent appointments in the Pakistani COAS, Chief of Army Staff, as well as the political situation in Pakistan. So Muneeb, without further ado, the floor is yours. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Sagarika. It's a pleasure as always.
All right, to begin with, the recent appointment of Asim Munir as the Chief of Army Staff of Pakistan. Who is he? How did he come onto the forefront? What is his relation with the current political setup in Pakistan?
He is one of the, you can say, the generals who propped up Project Imran in Pakistan. He was a part of that, we call it the cabal. So he was part of that cabal. He was very, close to Imran at one point of time. And he really believed that, Imran is somebody who's looking for change in Pakistani politics and trying to root out corruption and all that. And he was the one who sounded the alarm to Imran Khan when he was DGISI, saying that his wife, who's known as Pirni, is involved into corruption through Faragogi. We all know the history there. So, but Imran didn't like it, and Imran. Basically ousted him and replaced him with General Faiz Hamid. But apart from that, also what the other thing was the Pulwama attack, because he was DGISI and he was one of the main architects behind it, because his relation with JEM, or Jaish-e-Mohammed. We know how ISI works with Jaish-e-Mohammed, right?
Yes.
If you want me to elaborate it, I can go ahead and do that. But the intrinsic, relationship between ISI and different terrorist organizations in Pakistan, particularly the Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed, the two main which are concentrated over India. He had very, very close ties to them. He maintained the ties even after he was ousted at the GSI. He's somebody who has worked extensively on Indian policy from the Pakistani perspective. So he's a general, now he's a general, and not the first choice of Imran Khan. In fact, if some are to be believed in Pakistan, he was the last choice of Imran Khan. But to say that he and Imran don't see eye to eye will be an understatement, because there is tacitly, you can see that what has happened today in Punjab, in Rawalpindi March. Imran has basically gone ahead and called off his long march, right? And instead he is in a political retreat right now. So, but that can only happen with Imran Khan when he has some tacit kind of arrangement with Asif Munir, because we knew that before Asim Munir was basically appointed, the president of Pakistan actually went to Imran Khan to convey that the message that the government has chosen him. So obviously he would have had some back channel talks with Imran, and how Pakistan goes forward is something which needs to be seen now.
That's very interesting because he was ousted as chief of ISI by Imran Khan, right? And he was also heading the military intelligence and falling in Imran Khan's grace, and then having that power over Imran Khan at this time in his new position is a pretty interesting switch of roles, so to speak. Um, what what does he intend? Like, what is going to be Imran Khan's future? Do you think? with this? Does this appointment affect Imran Khan in any significant manner?
See, what I can make out of today's Imran Khan's, speech is that there is some kind of back channel talk happening between the different parties in Pakistan and with the military establishment as well, right?
Mm,
Now, if you look at the campaign which was built by Imran all over these months, it was at the back of, he went ahead and openly attacked the Pakistani army, and he's somebody who has openly discredited the Pakistani army in Pakistan, raked up the emotions of Pakistani people against the army. So at right now in Pakistan, the civilian military relationship is at a very low, and obviously it has its own repercussions, because if you look at Pakistan, geopolitically right now as well, you are seeing a resurgence of TTP in Pakistan, right?
mm,
On one end. On the other end, you're also looking at Taliban and Talibani forces clashing with Pakistan in different, borders of Afghanistan, in Wardak and other places. So Pakistan is trying to control that kind of inflow, and on top of that, what you call it, what do you call it? There is a particular phrase for it, icing on the cream. The Pakistani economy is in complete doldrum. They really don't know what to do about it, because they don't have an answer to it. I think nobody in Pakistan has an answer to how to go stabilize the economy going forward. They are entering a very tumultuous period right now, and his challenges are, uh, his task is cut out, and he has a lot of challenges in front of him. But one thing he has been able to do is that he has been able to do subdue Imran Khan for now. So that tells
mm.
you that there is
Sorry,
something.
I
Yeah.
was just going to ask about the older, the outgoing chief of army staff, Bajwa, going away. So that's that. What is expected of him now? What it doesn't seem like he's the kind of person who just happily retires to the mountains. So
No,
is he going to play a role or go off to the US?
they,
What is expected?
no, but if you look at Bajwa, they have sent him packing nicely, and what I mean by that is, they've boxed him very well, that he doesn't have much of an influence after retiring. Asim Munir is his Bajwa's man. He's very close to Bajwa. And why I'm saying that is because, look at the details, his tax details, which came out, and essentially he became, he was declared as a billionaire. So obviously, it's not something which has come out of the blue. It's something, they wanted Bajwa to be in a corner when he left, and didn't had an overwhelming sort of say going forward in the politics of Pakistan. So that is one thing. Now, second important thing is, Pakistan is the only country, I suppose, where supposedly they call themselves democratic, which they are not. But where an army chief, the moment he is chosen, the first thing he does is he announces his foreign trips. Usually it's the prime ministers or the presidents of the country, but in Pakistan we have seen a president, and true to his demeanor, he's heading to China and he's heading to US. So that tells you that he's going to carry forward the Bajwa policy when it comes to the foreign relations, because Bajwa before retiring was in US and then went to China as well, right? So the Pakistani army, in that sense, drives the foreign policy, in the front seat of foreign policy, and is going to continue to do so.
Well, I think perhaps they have more experience, considering the fiasco Imran Khan wrought with his trip to Russia right before the invasion. But yeah, it's been interesting to see him take charge already. To see Asim Munir take charge already. Uh, what further do you expect? What he's not supposed to be looking at leaving a legacy of clashes at this time, is what is being said. He's not looking to needle India, but he's got so much experience in doing just that. He's been a very major player in the terrorist landscape that Indian citizens have had to deal with. So, how hostile do you think this appointment is going to be? Is there any particular signals that is expected? I mean, of course, internally, Pakistan is, like you mentioned, it's everything that economy is in ruins. And considering just a few individuals such as Kamar Bajwa and the prime minister, etc., can have as much, the creme de la creme and will have the most money and form the Pakistani elite. But the citizens are finally rising up and creating cult personalities out of Imran Khan and others. Well, mostly Imran Khan. There's not a lot of personalities to revolve around at this time for them as well. And I think it's a desperate attempt to have a vision of a democracy. So, externalizing that and making India the enemy again and the focus of their ire, is that something that this appointment can hope to do for Pakistan?
See, making India enemy again, I don't agree to that. Why? Because India is already an enemy, will always
Yeah.
remain an enemy. That's the basis of Pakistan and its
Mhm.
operations and its as a
Okay.
nation, right? So that policy is always there. It's not going to go away. Now, talking about Imran Khan, the way you talk about resurgence of democracy, I don't see it that way. Had Imran continued for another year, I think people would have been on the roads paying for his blood because the
Absolutely.
way he drew the Pakistani economy right to the ground. One. So what he did was he was very smart. The moment he thought that he's going away, he you can say he started laying these political minefields by subsidizing oil, by subsidizing other things in Pakistan, making things cheaper, knowing fully well the predecessor who's going to come in will have no other option but to go ahead and do these economic reforms which are going to hurt people. So he went ahead and he placed that very very strategically and very intelligently, and he reaped the benefits out of it. But if you see today's crowds, if you look at Imran's body language today, he looked like flat out, he looked like a fizzled out man today, right? Deeply disappointed. That kind of the way he used to address his crowds, that enigma in his voice was missing. It was a very flat voice. The response from the crowd also was very lukewarm. You could see that there were a lot of people within the crowd who were moving while he was speaking. I was watching it very, very closely when that was happening. So that tells you that the mood in Pakistan is also changing, because they also realize that at the end of the day, the cards of aces is being held by the Pakistani army, and it's the army which will decide how to go forward. And obviously Pakistan is going through a very tumultuous period, and any further destabilization of Pakistan is very very dangerous for the common man of Pakistan, because they will not be able to afford it. Because see, they have a crisis coming up. I was reading a report just day before yesterday. Pakistan is going to run out of diesel, their diesel supplies in next 1 month, because they failed to earmark $400 million for it, right? So they have issues with them, and I don't know how they're going to solve it. But looking at India, look, if you look at this is infiltration, the infiltration from the Pakistan side is on. Even now we have had an encounter at LOC, right, where it was prevented by killing of a terrorist. But at the same time, we have some reports of infiltration happening from Punch sector, and there is an ongoing operation from last 2 to 3 days in that area. So Pakistani policy is good. Maybe they may not be able to looking at India right now, but in next 2 to 3 years, they will be completely concentrated on the way they are, on India. Their infiltration right now suggests that, they are not going to let the gas off the pedal, the foot of the pedal. Towards Kashmir or towards India. Also, look at the moment they have come out of FAFT grey list, they have again resumed their activities in Balakot, and we have satellite images where the JEM has again started building the mosques and the seminaries. They're mobilizing people. They're using Haqqani network in Afghanistan to train and decide who to send and where to send. Now, Maulana Masood Azhar is gone. Masood Azhar is underground. But if you look at JEM structure right now, the de facto chief uh, is the Tahir Anwar,
Right.
basically, his brother. So, Azhar's brother. So, yeah, the activities are on. Obviously, they might have tactically withdrawn for some time owing to their problems. I don't know how much of a damage they will be able to do, because next year is very, very crucial for Pakistan. What Imran said today, that elections are going to happen in 9 months, is an indicator that Pakistan will now have elections, next year, coming next year. At the same time, all the loans they have taken from the Chinese have put a rollover of 1 year, and they are supposed to pay them next year. So with this kind of political uncertainty in Pakistan, this kind of security uncertainty in Pakistan, I don't know how Pakistan is going to survive for 1 year. I mean, it is going to be very, very difficult for them.
I think I don't know what they're looking at, but perhaps this is why I was asking: is the needling of India something that is expected, considering that they have internal problems of their own? So even though Asim Munir has been involved in a lot of this terrorist setup against India, do we expect him to continue the same at this time? Is that, I mean, of course, that's a priority for them, as you said, is there Azad there. So, that if that, they're not Pakistan without it. So, of course, that's going to be on the sidelines. But what do you think is going to be some of the major things that he changes around him once he comes in?
See, I don't see him opening a front with India straight away, and I'll tell you why. Because I think before doing that, he's going to rein in the TTP in Pakistan
Mm,
itself,
right.
right? He is going to find some solution to these skirmishes, which are becoming broader and broader day by day with the Afghan Taliban. And Afghan Taliban is on a complete offensive right now. It looks like Pakistan, the strategic benefit or the strategic depth they were talking in Afghanistan is somewhat reducing. I would not say it has reduced or it's going to go away. No, it's not going to happen.
Mm,
But it's somewhere, there's a bit of a chip away in that kind of strategic depth, the way Taliban is actually, handling TTP or, supporting them. And, they have camps in Afghanistan, letting them operate freely there. We have seen Pakistanis covertly taking out TTP leaders in Afghanistan as well, right? They've taken out quite a few of them as well. So that war with TTP is on. So unless and
mm,
until I don't think they'll be able to gain significant ground, he's somebody who will open a front with India. But there is a silver lining. The silver lining is if Pakistan goes into a complete economic chaos,
mm,
then what does the general or the polity do to kind of rope in international support or to kind of rope in, uh, what do you call is a begging bowl syndrome, I call it, which is, it is, it's in it. I mean, I don't know, say Imran Khan said it today that, and I was laughing at it when he said that, and it's a very interesting comment he actually made.
mm,
He said, when I was making this university in Pakistan and I was making this Shaukat Khan hospital in Pakistan, I would go to my people, I would go to the world begging about it because I was doing something very, something for my country. But when, as a prime minister, I had to go and beg that we need money, I used to feel ashamed about it. Now, that tells you that the experience they have in going and using different people to raise funds for their country, and Imran saying that, the underlying message is very, very clear.
mm, mm,
In that case, there is a danger because what they will try to do is they will try to trigger something which will escalate geopolitically into a bit of a control, you can say a snowball into an issue.
mm,
And that is what their escape has always been because, they don't have any other option right now. They definitely cannot go into Afghanistan and fight the Taliban. That is not going to happen. That will implode, right? So then, what do? They're sinister at one thing, and that is terrorism towards India. And that sinister policy could actually fast track. That's my only worry. If going Pakistan going economically, towards bankruptcy very fast,
right.
what do they do? Yeah.
No, that's a good point. Let me just share. I just think that Imran Khan's social media game is absolutely on point, right? So I'll just share the screen with some of the images and videos from his rally today. So let me just. Um, there's a lot of international Twitterati that they have on call. Some of these are, I'll show you one who's paid by China. He holds a high position, and this is ANI covering him at the rally. This is Steve Hanke, right? He sits. on a Chinese board somewhere. So his chair is funded by the Chinese, and he has some great takes on India that he gets raised on pretty often. So there's not a lot of credibility, but his social media game is pretty much on point and better than pretty much most people that I've seen in Pakistan. So that's been interesting throughout the day to watch Imran Khan be on the news without that much substance to show for it on the ground.
Imran Khan's social media, if you analyze them, they're popularly known as the burger crowd. They're
Right,
called
right.
as the burger crowd.
It's
Why they are called the burger crowd is because these are the kids of middle class affluent families,
absolutely.
relatives and kids who are Ethiopian in style,
Okay,
are
about
woke in general. His
yeah.
kind Imran Khan says as gospel truth. But if you look today, PI usually carries out. Am I audible now?
So you're breaking up a little bit for me. Your voice is cracking for me.
My Wi-Fi is getting a bit unstable. I don't know
Yeah.
why. Is it better now?
No, no, now it's fine. It's fine now.
Yeah. So I was saying that they call the burger crowd because they come from the affluent or near affluent families, and they are the kind of wokes of Pakistan, what we call them, right? But if you analyze PTI's Twitter Spaces, I was on Twitter Space today. Usually they would draw a crowd of more than 1,000, 2,000 people in their Twitter Spaces. Today it was not over 775. That's the maximum they reached, right? Now, I was looking at the YouTube channel of PTI, not much traction there. There were a lot of trolling which was happening. So I think these political parties like PMNL and PPP have also activated their kind of IT cells, and they have started counting Imran and his followers into trolling. Looking at the crowds, Imran looked dejected. To be honest, he was expecting a much bigger crowd, and the crowd was not very big. It was not which you can say what we have seen in the past. We have seen bigger crowds and now drawing bigger crowds, but today the crowds were not that big as well. So that is why he decided not to go to Islamabad, but he has decided that he's going to skip from the assemblies. He's basically in a retreat right now, political retreat. So he's going to go for assembly elections, hoping that there'll be chaos or something, and people will vote for him overwhelmingly again, and he will have a strengthening of a case. But it's a typical game of chess happening in Pakistan politics right now. If Nawaz is thinking that Asim Munir is somebody who is going to give him undue advantage or they're going to gain from it. Honestly, I don't think so. Nawaz has this uncanny habit of picking up the wrong journals. Every time he has picked up a journal, the journal has kicked his butt, and Nawaz has to run. So, and I don't see anything different happening this time as well. You know, he might
No,
not favor.
no, that's definitely. I think that's overreach by any Pakistani prime minister now to assume that.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
I was just saying that it's overreach by any Pakistani prime minister to assume that.
No, that's
If
true. It's absolutely true. Any Pakistani prime minister who chose a general for him turned out to be his biggest nemesis. The general turned out to be stronger than him. But that's the nature of Pakistani politics, right? But Nawaz Sharif, who has been a prime minister many times, he's multiple times, three times, I suppose, till now. Uh, he has this uncanny habit because he's the one who has suffered the most out of it.
right, absolutely.
He has been directly being kicked out. The others might have conspired or might have apart from Zia, who actually went ahead and hanged Bhutto.
Mm.
But Nawaz is somebody who has always been booted out very squarely by the general. He has always picked or always thought he has made the right choice. So Asim Munir is somebody who might not overly favor them coming going forward. It'll be interesting to see in another 1 month or so how the Pakistani politics shape up.
All right. Also, Imran Khan has announced that his party is not going, is basically resigning from all assemblies. This was some hours ago.
Yeah, in the same rally, he announced that's what I said. He's in a political retreat. He's not going to Islamabad. That tells you what is going on. His resignation also is something which is surprising because he's not resigning from the Parliament of Pakistan. He's not
Mm,
vacating the seats there. It's only the assemblies he's giving up. And look at the assemblies which are with him right now. Right, he has KP, which is Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. He has Punjab. So these are very, very important, in a sense, very
mm,
polarizing kind of, and then he has GB, Gilgit Baltistan as well. So
right.
apart from Gilgit Baltistan, but if you look at Punjab and if you look at Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, these are very polarizing kind of assemblies. And if he withdraws from there, I mean, if they have to call for new elections, it's going to be anybody's game. What's going to happen? He's very confident he's going to come back with full majority. Maybe he does, he does not. But you cannot rule out a lot of, uh, you can have political violence pre-assembly. You could see political assassinations happening in Pakistan. He's just thrown the wide net wide open in Pakistan right now.
I'd actually like for you to dive a little deeper into some of the possible scenarios there, like you mentioned. You know, that is going to be chaos, especially in these parliaments. So, who do we expect to kind of come and make more use of this chaos, so to speak?
Uh, Look, the Pakistani chaos is a classic chaos, right? It
Yeah, it's
depends.
always ongoing. It's always on the boil. But at least there was a major player around who the crowds could coalesce for some time.
Uh, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, when it comes to, I think Imran is going to come back there. The reason is because the kind of campaign he has run against the Pakistani establishment with a lot of Islam and a lot of jihad and these things. The Orthodox KP people would resonate with him a lot. Punjab is going to be an open game, and why I say that is because if you look at Lieutenant General Faiz Hamid, who was from
Mm,
Punjab, and he was in some sort of power. He might be resigning very soon, on the verge of resigning, right? So the generals which were favoring Imran Khan have already started resigning. So that's weakened his position in the Pakistani military. Now, right now, the Sharifs are very, very unpopular owing to the problems of economy in Pakistan, right? So
mm,
people might not be overly looking forward to do it. Had it been Karachi, I would have said if TLP would have fought election, Saad Rizvi is somebody who would have been a challenge to Pakistan, to Imran Khan. But I don't know. We'll have to see how TLP is going to go ahead in Pakistan, what their future is going to be. Nobody's talking about them right now. But I am very keen to ask Pakistani experts that what do you see the future of TLP in Pakistan? They might have to unleash TLP to check Imran coming forward politically as well. But that means a lot of trouble
mm.
internally. But Punjab is an open game. I believe that Imran does have an edge, but his popularity might fizzle out very, very soon because the U-turn he has done today, it's not
Mm.
going to go well with a lot of people. And his inability, his blaming of the Punjab government, saying that it was our government. He's trying to do something Kejriwal used to do when Kejriwal started coming in. He reminded me a lot of Arvind Kejriwal. His
I
style of
understand.
politics was like that. So yeah,
I
he's
understand.
learning. He's learning from Indian politics, but unfortunately, he's learning from Kejriwal, which is good for us, which is good for the Indians because uh,
Well, I
Pakistan
mean,
and India are always
to be fair, Kejriwal has made gains from Delhi to Punjab. Slow gains, not expected to do
yeah,
well
because
anywhere else, but
the way Kejriwal cries in Delhi that we have the government but we don't have the control over police.
more
Uh,
effective than
yeah,
others in the place.
he was exactly doing the same thing. Like it's our government, it's our IG, but still he was not lodging an FIR saying to replace him. That victimization card. But I
Mm.
think that gas balloon which he had filled really really big is deflated somewhere. So it's going to be interesting, and also depends on when the elections are going to happen. Maybe the Pakistani government decide that we will keep it in limbo for some time, maybe 2 or 3 months. So they might push it to the next year, early next year. It also depends on the timing of that.
Absolutely. I just want to show the audiences one other So I've been scouting social media before, just to get a better hang of the Pakistani picture at this time. I'm just sharing something that I found kind of funny with a very young influencer who's been supporting Imran Khan. So yeah, this is somebody who's kind of burst onto the scene as a young Pakistani influencer and has been taking on all of the 2611 comments on India and yeah, has a lot of ideas on Pakistan and terrorism. This is for the audiences. If they're so interested, they can go and follow her for hot takes. So
Yeah, I've seen this her on Twitter, commenting about anything or everything, and this is a classic example of the woke crowd I was talking about. The wokeness in Pakistan,
I
and
mean, they're not
she's
particularly woke, to be honest. I think wokeness requires a cutting away of, from traditions. They hold on to the traditions, as Imran Khan did. So it's definitely elite. It's just that that elite is not woke when they're in the country. They are likely just woke
no,
outside.
they're woke, but they're jihadi wokes. The jihad is ingrained in their mind. That's not gonna go away. But the
mean, I'd
common sense
love
is
to
gonna
go
go up.
back to bite someone in Pakistan and see how they fared, if they were being woke, honestly. I think Arzu Kazmi would be considered someone who's woke there, right? Like
Yeah,
she's
because
very independent minded.
Yeah,
So
because she's somebody who who's traveled beyond Pakistan as well. Has seen the best of both worlds. But Pakistanis living in Pakistan are the jihadi wokes, right? So you're
well,
indoctrinated on jihad on one side and on the narrative of Imran Khan as some demigod on the other side. But she's nothing, a glorified troll basically. That's all she is. She has nothing to talk about, no substance in her content. The only thing she knows is making, poking fun of India in some way or another way, or provoking Indians on the Twitter. So, I mean, yeah, and these are the people who are actually following Imran, right?
I
So this
know
tells
that's
you that.
they've been at it promoting him, and yeah, which is why it's been interesting. Kind of picture that is shown to the outside world with regards to Pakistani politics is always, and this is true, like this has always been different, right? The kind of politics that they've shown for the world is taken I don't know why it's taken at face value because it's always been something different and we as Indians would know that best, being at the receiving end of all of the things that go on behind the scenes. So that's why the behind the scenes part is very interesting to me, and I'd love to see how it plays out. I don't have too many questions about, uh, you know, um other things considering Imran
Before,
has background. Sorry, yes,
before
go
you
on.
ask me the question, I would quickly comment on what you just said.
Yeah.
See, it's not that the world takes Pakistan on their face value. I'll tell you, the world will be very happy to run Pakistan to the ground. The only problem with Pakistan is that Pakistan is a nuclear powered nation. Unfortunately, that's the biggest problem. So to contain that fallout of, because they are nuclear, if Pakistan goes the Sri Lanka way, these nuclears can end up in hands which, we would absolutely dread, because the extremism in Pakistan is so huge. The extremism is also institutionalized in Pakistan, within Pakistani army and the other establishment, right? So somewhere that containment world sees that, they bail them out, hoping that they will correct their systems. And Pakistan, thinks they are fools and they're trying to, bail them out every time. But it's the nuclear capability of Pakistan that is keeping it afloat. Otherwise, Pakistan would have run to the ground, completely run to the ground.
Yeah, they're always on the verge of running themselves into the ground, definitely. But it's just they keep going on, they keep getting bailed out, and for to be fair, I think as we're both, Pakistan is a relatively a very new country based on, I think, just one or two, the enmity with India and uh, jihad being the core concepts of existence. So I think they do have a lot of sympathy approach because the kind of politics that surrounded them, due to what you said, actually, due to their nuclear capability being a deterrent from running them to the ground. The thing is that they too gain a lot. They have gained a lot of political clout. Their lobbies are very active abroad. Their citizens are very politically active in countries other than Pakistan, and unlike Indians who would prefer to, work at an individualistic level, they do coalesce around their national as well as religious identity wherever they go, however many generations they've crossed over. So that's definitely gives them a lot of leverage in terms of outward uh, appearances, so to speak. It's also the way that their political lobbies have portrayed them for so long, due to, of course, other influences, due to trying to keep them afloat for so long. So that's something that I don't think it matters really in the end politically for Pakistan, but it's still a serious thing. So
I'll answer.
yeah,
Sorry,
sorry, go on.
yeah, go on. Sorry. Now you were saying something. Please go ahead.
No, that's the point, really. That they do have some. This Pakistani citizens do cultivate more sympathy for their nation than most others do.
See, I'll answer that in two parts. This point of yours. The first part is the Pakistani diaspora outside, the way they are working, the lobbyist group, and everything, right? Pakistan has spent a lot of money on these things. They have created lobbyists in US, in UK, even in somewhere in Europe. They have made small investments in Europe, in OIC. But, when it had mattered, and when it mattered the most, that is after the revocation of Article 370 in Kashmir, the whole game of Pakistan fell apart because,
You're very
if you
right.
look at it, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Everybody backed India. Everybody stood by India. Even in OIC, this response was very, very surprising, right? So yes, Pakistan does make a lot of noise overseas. They have all these lobbyists, but these lobbyists are not only doing it for political reasons. These lobbyists have a twofold approach. They might try to go ahead and woo the politicians, the congressmen or the parliamentarians in UK, but they're also very active supporters and active, I would say, fundraisers for Pakistan's covert terror organizations, and that is something which has been exposed completely. And one of the famous lobbyists, Ghulam Nabi Fai, was even jailed and fined for $3 million for being a lobbyist, and having terror links. So Pakistan has failed there. Their lobbies, yes, they are active. Now, when we talk about the way we have seen the world response over India, obviously, if you look at geopolitics, nothing better to counter India's rise than a failing Pakistan, right?
Mm.
Pakistan is just an irritant the world has created in the seamless growth of India, and it's going to be there because at the end of the day, nobody wants to lose their upper hand in a region to a new or emerging power. So that kind of what we are seeing, that onslaught from West, especially from the liberals. We
Mm.
know it's a classic war between the right and the left happening globally, and true to the ecosystem of the left, they are doing what they do the best, that is narrative warfare. They're very, very good at it. They fight the narratives, the battle of narratives. That's where they want to settle it. So we are seeing that happening. But Pakistan, look, I'll be very honest. If you look at the reputation of Pakistan in front of the world, uh,
Mm.
Pakistan has lost it. I mean, Pakistan hardly gains any respect when it
Mm.
comes to international relations or relations of equal status in countries. Pakistan is considered as a nation which is a client state. Pakistan is also considered a nation of benefit, where every major country is trying to reap as much as geopolitical benefit they want to,
Mm.
using Pakistan as much as they want to. So it's like a squeezed lemon kind of a thing. The more you squeeze the lemon, a drop or two come out. But Pakistan's prestige or Pakistan's weight in international arena is not something which is taken very, very strongly. I mean, no doubt they might US might be very close to them, but if you observe them, they are highly suspicious of Pakistanis. They don't trust them one bit. right? But it's the strategic interest of US which keeps them afloat. Same goes with China, same goes with UK.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And the havoc they have made it, the Pakistani diaspora have created in UK with these grooming gangs and all that, and it's coming out now. It tells you volumes, speaks volumes about what's going on.
They had free run of it for over a decade, right? All the documents related to even their mere existence were they were documented and then shoved under the carpet. So um, I think there is at least perhaps they're losing it now with the rise of India's external with our foreign policy and with their support from Saudi Arabia and basically, like you mentioned, the OIC is also very circumspect about supporting Pakistan, and with the multipolar order being a little more obvious at this time, things aren't really as black and white for Pakistan as it used to be. Going from Saudi Arabia to Turkey has also not yielded the same results as they would hope for because. Well, Turkey is not in the best of economic conditions at this time. Still, there is Qatar, there's Kuwait, and just one mention is the Khalistani strategy, the Qatar strategy for Pakistan has worked reasonably well. If it's not Kashmiri terrorists now after the application of Article 370, that's become a little harder to do, but Khalistan referendums are being passed across the globe at this time. And yeah, I make it sound bigger than it is. It is not as big as, to be spoken of in the same breath as Kashmir, of course, because it has it has very little on-ground support within the country itself. It's an internationally run operation for the most part. And it seems that of late, Indian intelligence agencies are gaining the upper hand over a lot of these terrorists who have either been neutralized or arrested. So that's good. But yeah, that's also been a Pakistan policy.
Yeah, because if you look at the Khalistanis are self-detonating themselves like Pakistan is self-imploding, right? Nothing major. So the factions within Khalistan have started fighting, and we saw elimination of two of their key members by the rival gangs abroad, and then one of them had to surrender to the Indian security agencies, and he was brought in and shown in as arrested. So that tells you that this Khalistan movement, which they try to make a big issue out of, is going to fizzle out in the coming times. But look, that's what I said. Pakistan is basically an irritant. If you have a very small irritant when you wear seamless clothes, a small seam which is unstitched always gives you an itch, and that is what Pakistan is. And they use every formula in their book to keep India popping up on one issue or another issue. That's the problem with Pakistan. But see, the major threat, if we talk about, and if you allow me to, move away from a bit of our topic and explain things in a way that terrorism is working. My only concern is going forward. The investment, Afghanistan, Taliban, all these are converging at one place, because if you see, the Saudis are the ones who are the fathers of terrorism. I mean, there's no turning back on that. But the game is now being picked up by Turkey, by Qatar, right, by Iran. Iran is a major player. Absolutely. And obviously Taliban is their remote control, Pakistan's remote control, then Pakistan. Now, if you look at the way they're realigning the Muslim Brotherhood ideology, and this is where all these Ranas and the Arifat Khan, yes, Arifat Khan. I can't even pronounce her name properly. I'm sorry. I get confused with some other names. Arifat Khan, people like them come in. They are the ones who are Ilhan Umar in US. This is a cabal which is very dangerous. Why? Because they are the ones who are propagating this ideology in India. Also, if you look the way we took down PFI, and immediately after PFI, we had two failed terror attacks. One happened in Coimbatore, one happened in Karnataka. Now, Pakistan also knows that, anything big like Balakot or Mumbai is going to give them a backlash, which is going to be bigger than Balakot. They might not try that. But these small intensity terror attempts, if that carries on regular basis, I think that is going to be a major challenge for the security agencies going forward. Because what we should not forget is also that in a couple of years we're going to election mode as well, and everybody, from the Turkish cabal to the Pakistanis would really would not want to see BJP in power, and they would do any trick in the book to destabilize the country in any way. We are seeing a lot of narrative warfare already being unleashed. We are seeing, how they are going ahead about it. So this is something which worries me, I suppose. This is something I'm keeping a very close eye on as to how this situation emerges going forward.
So that's very interesting, Muneeb. In a lot of conversations, I find, I mean, of course, former, so uh, Mr. Vikram Sood, right? He's an author of the book called The Ultimate Goal, and he goes into the narrative 2.5 war very well. So he's the former head of India's intelligence agency, the Research and Analysis Wing. But there's a lot of people who don't think that now that people like Rana Ayub or Arfa Khanum or the Umar Khalids and the Sharjeel Imams have been discredited, they don't matter. However, I think they still matter in a lot of ways. They go and gain the stage in international conferences. There's, you have the dismantling Global Hindutva conference on one side, and on another side, you have Rana Ayub going on to US colleges and, giving lectures. And we don't have an Indian student body that protests against them successfully, right? These are people who whitewash terrorism, which is why it's actual war. It's creating the atmosphere of warfare, and we now know that in the age of information, intellectual warfare is absolutely something that is as real. Considering all of the radicalization that you mentioned, it's happening across borders, targeting local people to go ahead and create situations in Coimbatore and Karnataka. So these have real world effects. It's not like, this is left on social media.
No, you're right. The problem is, see, Rana and her likes is a part of the problem, and I'll explain how. They are the first line, the intellectual, so-called, intellectual class, we call them, or whatever you want to call them. They call them intellectuals of the society. The pseudo-intellectuals is what I would say. Now they go on international forums and they try to do whatever they try to do. They write a lot of one-sided narrative as well. But there are a lot of Ranas and there are a lot of Arifas who actually work on the ground. You might not see them on social media too much. You might not see them on writing for publications nationally or internationally. But these are the people who are influenced by their writings and actually propagate that more on the ground. Now, that's where the challenge is, right? And you're absolutely right. We have not seen anybody going to these international events from Indian diaspora and trying to take them on. It's simply not happening because we have not realized yet the the animosity of the whole cabal, how it works, and the effect it's going to go have on the ground. We dismiss them as fringe, and we think that's a very, very minuscule problem, and they're talking in the world. It doesn't really matter to us. But that ideology, when a young 16-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 14-year-old is reading or watching, the influence that has on his mind is something which is really worrying for me. And that is how radicalization works. I mean, you know, I've seen it how it works in Kashmir when you're justifying these things in newspapers. It becomes a narrative and becomes a talk of your home, and you start believing in these kind of things, right? So that's the danger there. That's the problem with Ranas and others, and why they need to be taken seriously and why they need to be countered effectively.
So, for the viewers, Muneeb is not someone who discusses the narrative war only very often. He has on-ground experience working with de-radicalization, and narco-terrorism is one of his specialties. And he writes about these issues often, and I will link some of your articles down below as well. So, this is not coming out of the blue as something that only the elites pay attention to or remains on social media, because the kind of international international support that on-ground terrorism gets. With the creating of specters that do not exist possibly. Like, I don't see how the local people of Coimbatore or Mangalore, Udupi are somehow responsible for these terrorists to go and attempt bombings. But this is the atmosphere that is created for those who support them, and this is happening rather rapidly because of the kind of information that is going out to them. Now, on this subject of terrorism on ground, and you're very right that in just less than 2 years we move into election mode, and I mean full on. We're always in election mode. I think that's the politics always at play in a very active, thriving democracy. But it's going to be huge at a scale that's very, very large scale in 2024. But in the run up to that, I will.
Sagarika, there's a lot of distortion coming in again. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yes, that is true. Actually, I don't think it's right at my end.
I don't know. It's a lot of noise coming in.
Just don't move. Okay.
Okay.
I don't know why. Good to know.
Now
it's out. Right. I think there's some. Are you using a mic that is bar or a wire?
I don't know. No, there's a lot of echo. There's a lot of distortion noise which is coming in. I don't know what that exactly is. It's like a squealy, distortion.
वो squeakiness मुझे. It may be echoing. It may be either of our.
Yeah. All right. Let's go.
I think it's a connectivity or StreamYard issue. Oh God, it's okay. We'll speak over it. Considering it's the anniversary of 26/11, I just want to reiterate that these have been failed attempts, and I am somebody who's deeply grateful for that, because on 26/11/2008, I was actually at CST station and in the morning of 26/11. So on the morning of 26/11, and in the evening, I got very frantic calls, panicked calls from my parents talking about something major going down. Nobody had enough information, and then of course, because I was in Mumbai, there was an information blackout. TV screens weren't working. We had those vans with speakers going around telling people to not panic, which obviously caused more panic. And then we had all of the parents of students calling them and updating them about the situation. We had some random TV channels run simulations, and it was very confusing for audiences because they did not know that they were simulations, and they pretended to be talking to terrorists. And all of those things were happening. And this was actually not as uncommon as people think. This was what we grew up with. There was, and you would know that better than anybody, being in Kashmir. I think that's less true now than it used to be, but I'm sure you've grown up in that atmosphere of real fear, actual fear of your life. So that is not true for the rest of most of India anymore, I think. So that's something I'm grateful for, that these have just been failed attempts, and something like the Balakot strikes does. At least Pakistan is definitely worried that something awaits them of that scale if they try anything further than that. So, Muneeb, thank you so much for joining us. I think it's the top of the hour, and for the audiences, this is actually a midnight catch-up. So to forgive the noises and the strange lighting, but I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, do drop a like and a comment. I'm sure Muneeb will answer any of the questions if you have, if you leave a comment on the channel below. And thanks again, Muneeb. Look forward to talking to you next time.
Thank you, Sagarika. Thank you so much for having me once again. Thanks a lot.
All right, take care.
You too.